Okay, Karen, go ahead.
All right, we're just bringing the meeting to order. We do not have a quorum. Brandon and I are the only people here. So,
Still want to call a roll.
oh, okay, go ahead.
No, no, you call it,
Oh,
not me.
I can call it. Okay.
This isn't my committee.
Karen Sarah here. Abby Velasco, excused. Richard Niederberg, not here. Brandon Marino.
Here, here.
Barry Johnson might be late. Mary Mallory, not here. Are we sure she's not here? We've got 7, but no, okay. And Chief Joseph De Jesus de Luna, not here. And Randall Freed is officiating. Can he be a member? And
Well,
Randy? Can Randy join?
he could be a member of
Still
any
not enough
board,
anyway.
but he's in a
Yeah.
meeting right now apparently, so he's not
Okay.
going to arrive.
All right. So, so the update is basically for the cultural committee, and we just had that event in the park, which seemed to go well. We got a lot of people coming out on that Saturday, and that was the outreach committee and Scott and Brandon and Barry and Richard did a lot with that. And also other people on the board were like Ari, or wait, what's his name? The other members of the board that were involved in that, and your committee, Brandon, on Saturday. Who else was involved in that? Was it?
Myron and I were there.
Hey, you better not forget Terry.
And Terry was there. Totally.
Yeah. And Adele was there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Patty was there.
And then Jeff Hardwick was also involved in the treasurer as well.
Kim.
Yep. So that was cool, and everybody wants to do that again. And then we have the event coming up in the park on June 25th, and we'll go into that a little bit in a minute. And I think right now, I've been looking at Cahuenga and seeing if it's going to be open in December. Yeah, so that's also on the agenda. So we can go ahead and move to number 3 and open it up to public comments and possible clarifications on non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. So does that, yeah. So anything non-agenda, right, Brandon? Yeah. Anyone? Nothing? Nothing new to propose to the cultural committee? Okay. And then, okay. And then number 4 is we have a little poster, digital poster, and also Brandon, or I'm sorry, Barry is going to post banners at Beeman Park about the movie event, which is at actually 7:45 on June 25th, on Saturday, June 25th. And the movie is, you can see it in the agenda. It's Indiana Jones. So it could be popular with teenagers this time. It was the big red dog last time. So you can bring chairs, you can bring blankets, and Barry and Richard are getting drinks and food, and we had a lot left over from the last one. And the park is providing a lot of equipment and all the movie equipment. So, oh, there's a couple sponsors involved as well. So it's a realty company, isn't it? Yeah, it's a local real estate partnership. And let's see. Okay, so any comments on number 4 on the park event? Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, very quickly. They're going to pick up the insert for the banners tomorrow.
Oh,
The
okay.
printing company, and Barry is going to cut
Wednesday.
them out and paste them onto the existing banners, and he's going to put them up, I believe, on Thursday. He
Oh,
said the 9th. So we'll have the banners up for this weekend, and I've already put the JPEG of the Raiders of the Lost Ark flyer that was provided to us by the city. That's already
cool.
up on our social media, and every week I'll put it up a couple of times, or maybe a few times a week,
Great.
and try to pimp it on all of our social media outlets, and put it also up on our website, which
Cool.
has not been switched over yet, which is driving me crazy. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but we have the digital flyer, and we'll have the banners this weekend.
Wonderful. Very cool. Uh, somebody had their hand up. Nope. Okay.
Yeah,
did.
Adele has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
I just was wondering how many people came to the last movie night? What was your attendance?
I thought it was about 40 people,
That's
Yeah.
not bad.
which seemed a little light at the
Well,
time.
and I wonder, I'm just wondering about how we are doing outreach, and how, what ways we could improve it. Because, like the thing in the park was great with you guys, but I wish more people had showed up to meet you. And, and I just wish we had a better, what is our mailing list? What does that look like? And I don't know, I think maybe Terry could speak to it because I think she's on the outreach committee.
Mhm.
I just wonder about, and also this is just like overview, like I get more information from Studio City Residents Association than I do from the neighborhood council. And like, emails about, what's going on. And I just think we really could up our game with that, with engaging stakeholders in neighborhood council activity.
Adele, how do you receive that communication from the residents? Is it like a newsletter?
They do email blasts, like they sent out an email saying there's a building going up, somewhere, and people should, just today I got an email, and they kind of keep us in the loop all the time. And
Oh,
they have probably a mailing list of about, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 people. It just would be really nice if the SCNC had reached more people,
right.
engaged more stakeholders, but I think Terry might be able to speak to that.
Actually, Brandon, who's the chair of outreach, is here, and he would probably be better at answering your question. I agree with you. I'd like to do e-blast. However, we have just recently had a discussion at our last meeting about what we're allowed to draw attention to in terms of, not because as a neighborhood council, not as a residents association, which can make their own rules up because they're not beholden to the government on any level, but we have different rules as to what we can advocate for, or what we can support, or what we can promote. So at that point, take it away, Brandon.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
I am.
Sweating here. Better not sweat on my computer. I'll short it out. No, the email list is not our responsibility. We don't have outreach does not have access to it. That's solely in the wheelhouse of the president or whoever the president is. But in terms of social media, we can do that. And you're right. Terry was right. We have to be. We're subservient to codes and ordinances and guidelines because we are a government organization. We're a city organization. So there are some things we absolutely cannot do where the SCRA can just pretty much do whatever they want. They're a private entity. And they
But we can put out informational.
We can put out information as long as it's neutral. As long as we're not cheerleading a particular business or favoring something over something else. If it's pure information, we can put it out. In terms of this, Movies in the Park, obviously it's an LA City thing. Nithya Raman is co-sponsoring it. So we're not going to be the only one sponsoring this. I believe CD4 is going to be sponsoring it, is going to be putting it out as well. They're going to have a presence there, apparently. So we have some time. It's the 25th, and that's a good 18 days away. So hitting it hard, getting the banners up, hitting social media as best we can, getting email blasts out in advance. We should have an email blast every single week. It shouldn't be once a month or once in a
Okay.
while. It should be every week because things are always happening in this city that people should know about.
I mean, we don't have to have opinions about,
No, you can't have
you know,
opinions,
we don't
but
have
pure
to have
information you
opinions.
can.
It could
Yes.
be information about what, what in terms of land use, what buildings are coming up, what things are coming, people should know about it. That's what
Well,
I'm,
to stay on topic, I know what you're talking about. Like if there's a planning meeting, if Plum's having a meeting, they're talking about something relevant to Studio City, it's something we can discuss in an email blast. And we
right.
can say, hey guys, there's a Zoom meeting that's Plum or telephone. Usually they're telephone only, but you can listen in while you're doing whatever it is you're doing around the house and educate yourself. That's something we can do, but
Yeah.
we can't favor something over something else. That's
I wouldn't think we would, but we lack we're not doing the education I think we should. So,
we're
or could.
we're using the Zoom outreach code and we're talking outreach. It's
That's
not
okay.
me. I didn't do it.
We're aligned. We're
No.
aligned. Yeah, it's good. So, okay. Thanks. Now that was all useful to think about, going forward.
Scott's
And-
gonna drop. Scott's gonna push his hand right through the screen.
Oh,
Get his hand up.
I just wanted to say, I think the turnout at the last movie in the park was low because if I recall correctly, there was no email blast that went out about that. It was not included in any of the emails that went. It was on our social media, but not on our email. Plus,
right.
that day, there was a giant Easter fair at Beaman Park. And had I knew about it, I would have manned the SCNC booth and passed out flyers and said, hey, don't leave or come back later and come see Clifford the big dog. As far as the next movie night, I mean, save the date. If I were in charge, Brandon would have the keys and he would probably already send out a save the date twice or thrice and told everybody that, on this particular night, we're having Raiders in the Lost Ark. I mean, we can promote the heck out of it like we did with our pizza party 2 days before with an email blast, but
Mhm.
people need save the date. And
Yeah.
that's where, I'm trying so hard with another issue with National Night Out, it's a lot of work with all these moving parts with other entities, but this is ours. And to be delicate, I'd give Brandon the keys to the email, I'd give him the access to the email blast, and I would trust the outreach committee that they wouldn't be advocating for something other than promoting ourselves, which is totally fine to do. And Adele, I know exactly what you were talking about. I got the blast I get the emails from the Studio City Residents Association. And obviously it's a residents association, but still the land use issue they just put out, not to blur the topic and take up too much time, but they alerted us about something that we should have been dealing with for months. And I believe that hearing is today. So we're a day late and a dollar short to that. So it just gets a little frustrating. I know we're all volunteers, but for those of us, it's the same faces at every single event. Let's just try to get more of the public involved and focus on advocating for ourselves and not worry too much that someone is going to start promoting their side business or political or putting out campaign ads for politicians or ballot picks. I mean, we'd all like to do that, but we know we can't. Anyway, I'll shut up.
I just want people to vote. I don't care who they vote for. Just do
Exactly.
it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think we've probably covered that agenda item number 4.
Terry's
Sure.
hand is up.
Oh,
Yeah,
Terry,
I just want to add, what I do in my, in real life is I run a nonprofit, and nonprofit 101 is to gather email addresses. So at everything we do anywhere, there should always be a clipboard that says, join our email list
That's
in
true.
order to get the names, because the people who sign up willingly are people who are actually, care. And so you always have to put up some little card in front of the clipboard that says all the reasons they want to sign up. Find out about movie nights, find out about free giveaways, find out about kissing booth on Valentine's, or whatever you think might attract people. But at every single opportunity, you should always be asking people willingly to give you their email address and to be part of because if they sign up willingly, then you're not spamming them ever. So at this movie night, I would suggest that we make sure we have a clipboard and even solicit people, say, hey, would you like to sign up for the email?
Good idea.
I like it. That's great. Yep, we'll do, definitely. I'll make sure that we have that, Terry, next time. So, okay.
Patty has a question.
Patty?
You have to unmute yourself then.
Not a question. In the past, and I know for a fact, we must have gazillion email addresses throughout the years. And Randy when he was first president, he used to send an email out quite often, and on everything. And just recently, in the last year or so, nothing, except for once in a while, a little blurb. So I think it's up to the board to, hone that in and use the available email list.
Yeah. Maybe even writing the emails ourselves and submitting them for him to send out, Patty. I would imagine we could do that, right? Yeah. Great advice. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for coming, you guys. Even though we don't want to have a quorum, you're teaching us. So, okay. Anything else on the discussion for item 4? No, we're good. That was very useful. Thanks. So item 5 is a discussion and possible motion regarding the open green community historic golf course, referred to as Weddington. The 9.78 acres includes both the golf course and the driving range, I believe. And most of our community is showing us publicly and through our email that it is culturally important and significant to our community. So I had a conversation with Terry today, which was very helpful, and she suggested that the motion actually be in the form of a request to either rewrite or add an addendum to the historic designation that she submitted, right? Is that correct?
The nomination that I submitted was brought through the whole chain of command and then voted on. So what can be done is the current councilwoman, councilperson, could be asked to make an amendment to the nomination or to the designation. At this point, it's not a nomination any longer, it's a designation. Right. And there might be an opportunity for that to happen because there is a pending legal action about how the last nomination went through and things that might not have been handled correctly. So the reason this would be a pertinent thing to do is that by the time we get the chance to ask the council member, like if you were to vote on it and that motion passed, it might be exactly when this is being reviewed. So it would be timely.
Yeah, and looking at the actual historic cultural monument designation, it is designed so that you kind of just pick one, and it's like there's more than one function that site fulfills in our community. And the elephant in the room really is the golf course and the historic nature of the golf course, which is not a building, but it is, it's actually an open space. It provides aesthetic value to the neighbors in the neighborhood. Terry pointed out that you know, it was originally built in 1955 because the city was concerned about disappearing open space in 1955. Okay, so here we are in 2022, and as Terry pointed out, it hasn't changed. The golf course is still a 9-hole, par 3 golf course. And, you know, so basically, I think the motion as written just needs to be tweaked to probably put in the fulfillment of the new designation, or the edit that should be in the designation for the councilwoman, I believe, right? Kind of makes sense. And then I have a list of that. I don't know if I can do a screen share. Let's see.
There should be a little arrow next to that green button, screen share. If you click on the arrow, there'll be a pop-up menu and you should be able to share. You see that little green button at the bottom? Do you see it?
Yep.
That's screen share.
Okay.
You should be able to screen share.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Can you see the Microsoft Word document? So this would be the addendum. And it kind of, it says, these are the main aspects of what a historical designation has to have, which is the location, the design, the setting, the materials, the workmanship, and the feeling and association, right? So I don't know if we just use these things in the motion, it would be quite long, but it wouldn't be that long, you know, to kind of just say, these are the changes we would like to see or added to the historic designation, because basically ignore.
Let me point of order you very quickly. We don't have a quorum, so you can't formulate a motion.
Oh,
We can
okay.
discuss things, but we can't actually formulate a motion. There's no quorum, so there's no vote today. Like I said before, you could bring this motion to the board as an independent motion, like what happened last month with the problem with Zoom. But we're very limited as to what we can discuss in terms of constructing the motion tonight. We can have a general conversation about what the motion should represent, but we cannot, as far as I know, we can't formulate the language tonight.
Okay. And Patty, you want to go? Yeah.
As Brandon said, we could formulate the motion as a discussion, and then you could submit it to Randy for tomorrow night's meeting. Right? So we should finalize a motion. It just can't be voted on by the cultural affairs, but it can be presented, right, to Randy, and with a second from another board member.
That's correct, but it's next week, Patty.
Oh, it's not tomorrow. Okay, well, next week then, fine.
Okay, yeah, plenty
But I
of time.
think it needs to be done this month.
Yeah. We're thinking.
So I would suggest that Terry could help fine tune the motion. Right, Terry?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I think that we could get it into a form that that would be acceptable to everybody, because it's a little difficult for people to understand exactly what this is, like what the nomination is.
Can I ask a question very quickly? Terry might have an answer for this. She's deeper into this than I am. Is there any precedent within the city of Los Angeles where a landscape has been designated as a historic cultural monument? Not a building, but a landscape.
Oh, yes. There's not.
Perhaps that should be in the motion as examples because I think some people will say, well, it's not a building, therefore who cares? But then you can turn around and say, hold on. The
Right.
city has designated landscapes as historical monuments. Therefore, it's doable. It's something the city has done in the past
Mhm.
and can do again. I think that's a hurdle. I think individuals have a tough time crossing, that they equate historical monuments with actual structures. When
Right.
in fact, if history shows this is not the case, Los Angeles has done this to landscapes in the past. I
Right.
think that's important to add to the motion.
We
Just to
haven't, sorry,
go ahead. I'm done.
I was gonna say, we don't have a lot of what is referred to as historic cultural landscapes. What we've had more of in the last few years are landscapes that are a grove of trees,
Right.
or a part of a park that I'm trying to think, I can't off the top of my head, but there's a park that's just a set of stairs. There used to be a building there years ago, and now all there is the landscape and a set of stairs that used to be the beginning of this building, and the actual trees have been declared a monument. So yes, you're right, Brendan. There is actually precedent for other than buildings or statues or signs to be nominated, and there is precedent for that. It is something across the country that is actually growing in popularity about the actual phrase historic cultural landscapes. And what qualifies for a cultural landscape, as Karen said, there's a few criteria, but one of the criteria is a landscape that was planted in a certain fashion or design for a particular reason. And the landscape of the golf course, the trees are to delineate the fairways. So they were absolutely planted in a very specific way for a very specific purpose. So they meet that criteria. And Karen, I think that when you were talking about the acreage, and we can talk about this later, the entire parcel is 16.1 acres, and the tennis courts take up about 7 acres. So, and then there's the driving range. So I think that the 9 acres is actually the golf course. And then there's also the driving range and then the tennis court. So the whole property is
Oh, okay.
61. And just so you know, even though the nomination at the last minute had some shenanigans when it went to city council, the nomination is still for what's called the subject property, which means the entire property. So
I would also, if I can add what Terry just said, that this is something that is becoming commonplace around the nation. And LA's always prided itself as being a leader in a lot of things, and clearly we're behind on this part, on this particular thing. I think it's important, not necessarily in the motion body itself, maybe in the second or third paragraph. You know, Adele knows this. You know how I am about motions. I think the first paragraph should be the motion, and the second and third paragraphs should be the descriptive text, helping people understand the motion. And I think in the descriptive text, it should say that this is something that's becoming commonplace around the nation. As we're losing open space to developers, once it's gone, it's gone. There's no coming back. Once you tear that down, it's never going to be the same again. And you can always build buildings somewhere else. There's plenty of places to build buildings where it's just wasteland. Build it there. Like North Hollywood. You didn't hear me from me. Sorry. But this is something that has been around for quite some time. And once it's gone, it's gone. So it really deserves a good, long, hard look and a real commitment to understanding this. And I think having people understand that landscapes can be historical monuments is paramount to that. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Can I just point out something, Karen?
Yeah, sure.
There are, when we were at the Plum Committee, no, I mean the historical, not whatever committee, they nominated a series of trees along Magnolia right in front of North Hollywood High School to be historic landmark trees because they're so old and they're so majestic.
Right.
And the historic commission designated them as historic trees. And then there was a couple of trees in front of North Hollywood High that's on the property. And they couldn't, because those were street trees, they couldn't, but they were urging the high school to consider those also historic landmark
Huh.
trees. So yeah, so I mean, there are, there are significant trees that are street trees that border the property. And then there are significant trees that are on the property. And as Terry said, the landscape was planted purposefully and it really is quite magical when you walk there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think it's a good thing to do, and I encourage this to do the and then I did have a question to Brandon and Scott. So if you don't vote, you can just give a motion to the board, and like, let's say Brandon presents it to the board or Karen, because you're on the board, right? You can just present a motion that hasn't been passed but was worked on at committee level. Is that true?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
I mean, just be careful how much you work it
Mhm.
online, so to speak. I have am I following this right? In February of last year, the board voted to approve or support Terry's application for the cultural status of Weddington. And then after that, what we had voted to approve changed because something happened with the actual application. Wording was changed, and then we weren't approving what our community impact statement approved. It looked like we approved something that we didn't approve. And now we're going back and resubmitting. Terry, are you resubmitting something? Have you guys read the motion from February of 21? What the board approved? You want to hear it? What was
Yes,
approved?
thank you.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So this was, I just found it. So I wasn't on the board then, but I remember being at the meeting, February 17th, 2021. Dear council member Paul Krikorian et al. On February 17th, 2021, at its regular meeting, the Studio City Neighborhood Council passed the following motion. The board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports the application presented by Terry Austin to the Cultural Heritage Commission for the Weddington Golf and Tennis Club to consider its findings and declare the property an historic cultural monument. And then it has the case number, envelope number, the addresses, and it says, should you have any questions, please contact the SCNC. Sincerely, Randall Freed, President, Neighborhood Council. So that's what the board already approved. And I think we stand by that, right? And what's changed was the designation itself. Okay. So Terry, your application is still correct.
My original nomination did not change. The wording of it was changed at 8 o'clock in the morning on the day of the vote.
Got
So
it.
you're right, Scott, and that's a really good point, that in this motion, we should say that we would like to support the original nomination that was voted on and supported by the SCNC to be amended back to its original form, or better wording than that. But you're right.
Since I have it handy, who would like it emailed to them? And then I
Please.
jump off a little bit.
Everybody.
That would be,
Okay.
who's
And
on
that
it?
was, and Brandon, I know that, since you know all the dotting of i's and crossing of t's, that in order to change a nomination, there are supposed to be new findings. There should have been findings that were produced by whoever wanted to change it. In this case, it would have been Paul Krikorian's office. And those findings should have been on the agenda and posted 48 hours before the meeting. There were no new findings. None have ever surfaced. And it wasn't, it was verbally changed at 8 o'clock in the morning at the beginning of the meeting. And so there is now a lawsuit been filed to sort that out.
I don't think any report has talked about the economic impact of losing this attraction in our city either. It's been all about the buildings. It's been all about, what's gonna go there. Go on, Patty.
I just wanted to say, I think we should point out that the trees themselves are historical, not just the landscape, the
Mhm.
entire property, but the trees themselves. I think that should be a special sentence, right, in that to have Nithya Raman consider.
The only thing about that is that I know a lawyer who represents like the business side of it most of the time. And she doesn't think that the trees on this site have any claim. I don't know if that's correct because I don't know what the trees are, but somebody's gonna have to put forward, an argument for
There's
that.
only 7 species of trees that are considered protected in Los Angeles. And on that whole property, there's only 1 tree that qualifies as a species that's actually protected. I think, Patty, trying to get the trees declared historical wouldn't be as good an argument as what Brandon was talking about, a cultural landscape, because that's the grass and the trees and the berms and the whole landscape.
And it could be the design of the trees, right? Like Terry
Yeah.
was saying, yeah, that the way they were planted, like the designated planting, right?
Yeah, it's a landscape. It was landscaped in a certain manner and designed for a particular reason. On golf courses, fairways are designed, and the nicer the golf course, the nicer this is done. But all 2 to 4 people playing the game are together at the tee, and then they hit their ball and it goes all over the fairway, and then they're together again on the green. So at the tee and the green, whichever direction you look at, you're supposed to be looking at some attractive vista. And that's why the trees line the fairways. They delineate the fairways and they create something beautiful to look at. And why Weddington is so unique is that par 3s are never private fancy clubs. So they're usually very utilitarian. But this one was done in a very unique and exemplary style to be as beautiful as it is.
What's it called? Every course, right? Yeah, there we go. Aligned with the.
It's the trees are lined to delineate the fairways.
Oh, okay, there you go. To aesthetically, right? To aesthetic.
And create a vista on the tees and the greens.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, that's right, and green.
Okay.
I'll just say one other thing is that at the actual historical nomination meeting with the CHC, the commission at one point started to talk about the 5.4 acre park and about that being part of the landscape. But I know because they hadn't seen the commission had not seen the actual plan of it, because that's not what they're supposed to talk. They're not supposed to talk about the ultimate development. They're only supposed to talk about what the relevance of the site is. But I know that one particular commissioner made the statement. She said, well, a 5 acre park, that's great. And I know she was thinking of continuous acreage. And I think that she thought that that would preserve part of the cultural landscape. I don't think she understood at all that that it wasn't a continuous 5 acres of trees, that it was the perimeter.
Mhm.
Karen, I think the beginning when it says the Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council respectfully request Council Member Nithya Raman to make a motion to amend the historic cultural monument designation of Studio City, perhaps after formerly known as Weddington Tennis, to I don't know, to revert to the integrity of the original nomination, or to revert to the original nomination presented by the commission, because they're the ones who chose the wording of the original nomination. I don't know if that would give it more validity to the board, that they realized that it was changed by the councilman and his deputy.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have to make it correct that statement a little bit. It is assumed that it was made by the councilman, because it has to be a council person to make the change. It doesn't come from the mayor, and it doesn't come from an office independent of a council person has to ask for it. And it's just never done that a council person from another district asks for a change for something that is not in their district. But that, like I said, that's all going to come out with the pending litigation.
All right, let's keep this. Let's keep this golf course. Like, I mean, really, it's like so sad. So what do you guys think of that as a motion? We can think about it, email it, think about it. And then I guess we would have to, during the meeting on Monday, have it ready for, and Randy would have to allow me to make the motion, or he could make the he could make it if he wants to. Or someone else can make it if they want to, I guess, right? Because it's the whole board.
Good bones, though. I'd like to think about it in the morning and maybe
Yes.
Karen, I think you should be direct about it and make the motion. Don't wait for Randy to throw this together or support it. Just
Okay.
ask for the motion and then have another board member second the motion.
Okay.
And then it has to go to a vote.
So I just ask Randy for a motion, or I just ask the board for a motion?
I think you have to submit it to Randy for inclusion on the agenda.
Agenda.
And you.
That's correct.
And
Yeah.
you submit it, and you submit it as something that you are submitting. You can submit, anybody on the board can submit a motion. He can't prevent that.
Okay, and it's not until Monday, so we got a couple days we could. Yeah.
tweak it,
on
yeah.
it.
Well, you
Okay.
want to add, if you're going to add, this is a precedent set by blah, 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 whatever you're going to say, where other
Oh, okay, yeah.
where other landscapes have been, can you make me a co-host? I want to share a couple of photos with you. Maybe you could
Sure.
also use the photos and.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could share those with
You do that
just
now?
email them to me, but we could also show them. Yeah.
Because I can't share my screen because yeah, okay, great. Okay, all right, wait, I'll show you. So I'm going to share,
You were quicker than my fingers, Adele.
all right.
To get to my mouse and.
All right, there's one picture.
Oh, wow.
This is from up. So, one of the things that you're talking about is the aesthetics, right? And what will be affected is the aesthetics of these trees will be destroyed. And this is from up at Sunswept, where the bridge is up there. If you look down, this is a view from up there. And you can see the stands of trees that are actually delineating the golf course there. This
Oh, yeah.
here, and these here, and
Yeah.
these over here. and it's all the trees. And then you can see the edges of the tennis courts there. And let me do another one.
shot. And that's what
Other-
the community sees, you know,
Right.
when they're living
And
there.
one on street level. This is on Valley Spring. And again, this is a stand of trees, and that's one of the fairways that people walk through. I mean, I'm happy to send them to you if you want,
Totally. Yeah, that's great.
because you could include it with emotion, which I think is very effective.
Yes, definitely, because they're very, very, you know, designed, right? They're
I
very,
mean, I think Terry might even have some better pictures. Those are just two I thought of.
Yeah, I've got some good pictures that show from the tee, and this, so you can see the lines of trees and.
yeah.
Adele, that picture you have from the hills that
Yeah.
shows how tall the trees are, you know, looking
Oh.
over Staples Center, and
Yeah.
that's an
Cool.
incredible, culturally significant picture.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll find that one too. I'll send you what I have, and Terry can send you what she has, and
Not too challenging to maintain if somebody like, you know, could do that. So, yeah, I know, it's wild. Patty, do you have your hand up? I think she's good. Okay.
I'd like
All
to say something just real quick. Karen, if you look at last month's board agenda, I think there were
Okay.
four motions that were brought by board members.
Okay.
Myself, Brandon, and I think even Randy brought a motion. So it shows
Right.
you how you write it. It's like you write the motion normally, and then it says, I think it's motion presented by Karen Sarro, second by, and then a blank line, because then someone seconds it. And you write it like that. You
Okay.
email it to Randy before he sets the next agenda, and then he
Okay.
puts it on. And then don't fret if it needs a change or a tweak, then someone offers an amendment during the board meeting.
Right.
And we can then change it and vote on the change and all that other stuff. So
Cool.
it happens all the time. And just look at the last month's for the example of how it's written.
Wow, that's
I
a
have to-
gorgeous
I have
picture.
to jump off, but wow, that
Okay.
looks nice.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks.
there's another one. So that's even better, because you can see, you know, Ventura Boulevard, and you can see the houses, and you can see, you know, all that green.
You know what? That's a great picture, because that's the first picture you've shown me that looks like Studio City.
Ah,
We have a very
wow,
unique,
you're right.
we have a very unique topography. Well, I mean, I've always thought, even before I moved to Studio City, that the Coldwater Curve right there resembles something you would see at a beach town, right? You know, right along the hillside. One side's the hill, the other side's the ocean, and it just didn't feel like I was in the valley anymore. And that view right there is something we're losing rapidly.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm singing to the choir with Adele being here. She knows this.
Adele, is that one of Peter's
I mean,
drone shots?
look, I'll be perfectly honest here.
I don't
If
know
you're
how
if you're a developer,
to put that. and
there's
just-
not a lot of open space remaining except perhaps Studio City, and the open space it's the thing that highlights Studio City as unique. The
Right.
fact that we have wide open space, lots of trees, not a lot of tall buildings. We're not Encino.
Yeah, Dean was
Studio
talking
City,
about
and
that.
this looks like Studio City to me. And you know, without that, it's not going to look the same. And it's an identity, and we're trying to really protect our identity here. And I think this motion should appeal to something like that. You know, culturally historic landscapes, and protecting our
I-
community's identity.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Those are good words to put in your motion.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Oh, I can stop screen sharing, I guess. I don't
One
know.
of the things that I mentioned in my presentation was the fact that since 1955, this had never had any dues or club membership of any kind. So it was always an open door policy to everybody. And so that is part of the cultural Studio City, that this started out as it was a place that went from farmland to post-war, where people could afford to get a house and have a backyard and a white picket fence. So it's really been that American dream, sort of, what's the word for it? Words won't come to my head, sorry.
It's like- Yeah, it makes sense.
Not a nightmare, American dream. Here's the one that I think, here's another one where you can see how tall, see, these are the trees on the property, and see how tall they are, how big they are.
Does Los Angeles have like an old growth policy regarding older trees over a certain height? I know you mentioned earlier that there's only one species of protected trees on.
No,
the
there's
property.
seven. There's seven species. There's only one of them that's on this property that is a protected tree.
Got it.
But what
But
we don't have, that like South Carolina has and Alabama has, is we don't have anything that says this is a grand old tree that's been here 70 years. Doesn't matter what species it is. It's representative of this, the ambiance of this neighborhood, and you can't cut it down. And so many cities, Boston, Chicago, so many cities have ordinances that don't allow you to cut down old growth trees, and we don't.
Adele?
Santa Monica does. and
Adele?
Yes,
Adele?
yes.
It's a call for action to you and your sustainability committee. You can RFA that, make a motion, send it to Raman and Krikorian, and say, listen, we need something. If you said Santa Monica has one, just copy theirs and say, look, what we need what Santa Monica has. It makes perfect sense. We have to protect these old growth trees. And that would be
Well,
perfect.
what they call them, actually, they call them significant trees.
Then that's fine. Use their language. It worked over there. Why can't it work here? That should be a sustainability committee motion. It's not attached to any council file, so it'd be an RFA. I would have no problem voting for that. I think it's a good idea.
Mhm.
I'm trying to stop sharing.
Oh, that's
Oh, there it
Hard to
is.
give her. It's hard.
So weird. Oh, well.
you're not sharing now. You're okay.
I'm not sharing? Okay, thank you.
Adele, would you send me that shot of Peter's? I know that I have it somewhere, but it's probably from a year ago.
Yep.
Such a good shot, that one.
Yeah,
Right, Brandon, it really does personify what I think is beautiful about Studio City.
yeah,
I think that's the one shot. That's the money shot. you
that's
used.
my shot for
Do
sure.
I have your email, Karen? Do I?
It's ksarrow at studiocitync.org or karensarrow@gmail.com too, if you want.
Okay. Okay, I'll send it. Yeah. Okay, good.
All right, well, that's good.
Love Karen.
Good job, everybody. Thank you, Terry. And wow, that was great what you said, Brandon, and we'll incorporate that, that was amazing. So, okay, so I think we're okay for number 5, and I'll follow up with that. And then this number 6, Barry said this was moot, that that Corian has addressed this, but I can't see any evidence of that myself. I think many of you were at the Residents Association meeting where a former employee asked him when the museum was going to open, and he said, "Oh, we're working on that. We're appointing an employee," but I've asked her specifically if anything's happened, and I haven't heard back, and I haven't reached out to him directly, but there doesn't seem to be any motion happening. So I may, I don't know if we want to work on this. I should really find out more, but I may find out more and then bring a specific motion to have, I guess I looked at the hours. They're only really part-time hours. I don't think they're full-time hours anyway. I think they're just weekends. Is anybody familiar with Cahuenga?
They are part-time. They've always been part-time.
Yeah, so maybe 2 part-time employees would be great, and I just, I think many of you were also there when Kevorkian was basically like, yeah, parks, the city's not going to pay for parks. The city's got too many other things that we're paying for, so that's just not on our agenda. So that's not going to be on their agenda if we don't ask for it, demand it, say that's what are we living for? If we're going to put all, we're not putting all our money into the police, but we're putting a lot of money into the police, and I support that as well. But we need to balance that with a good lifestyle as well. So so what I'll do is find out more about this, and if anybody has anything they want to say, because it's actually, there's an article about it that talks about how peaceful this treaty was, and it was actually, and then I think the woman who actually proposed the idea, Bernardo Ruiz de Rodriguez, is always celebrated as well, because she basically designed the treaty that everybody implemented. So I think it's a really worthwhile example of peacekeeping and, people deciding to live together in harmony. So why not keep that open and keep that in, our legacy as a state and as a city, especially. Like, it's incredible really that it happened here. So anyway, any thoughts about that? Oh, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I think you're right. That I think it's a great idea to bring it up, and because you're right, at that last meeting, the idea of getting an employee was sort of like, oh yeah, we're on it, and clearly they're not. And when I brought up about, well, is there anything in the budget, since Krikorian had been the budget chair for the last 10 years, about acquiring open space parkland that wasn't just for artificial turf fields, he said, oh, well, we'd have to take money away from the police. And it was such a specious thing to say, because the city has $1 billion budget, $1 billion budget. And to be, so yeah, so I think you do have to bring it to his attention, and because otherwise it's just going to get ignored.
Go ahead, Patty.
You might want to reach out to Connie Elliott. She's on the board of the Studio City Residents Association. She is also on the Campo de Cahuenga board.
Great. I was
Very-
wondering, yeah.
Very
Okay.
involved, super protective of that property and everything about it. She can really help you, and
Great.
she can help you write the motion too. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
good. Okay.
I'll send you her
Right.
contact information.
Thank you, Patty. I was asking somebody if they knew somebody on the board. You do, of course. Okay. Cool. All right. So anything else on number 6? It's going to involve a little research, and then I'll probably put together a motion on that. Anything? No? Okay. And then number 7, I thought we'd have a quorum, but I'm not sure if, the board is even going to support this. It would basically be, it depends. Like, to me, this is like the homeless thing, where the city actually voted for bonds. It's not even like clear what kind of funding mechanism this would involve, but it looks to me like it's going to be go bonds, and apparently it would raise billions of dollars to restore parks, and the city council is endorsing it, I think. Like some members of the city council are supporting it. So I just thought it was an opportunity to vote for funding of existing parks and new parks and, open space. So we could just talk about it if you want. There's like a link to the motion. It's yeah, they're trying to put, it basically would be directing, actually, we have to do this very quickly. Like, as a board, we'd have to ask for it. I might just call them directly myself or something, like our city council people, because they have to ask the city attorney to draft something so that this can be a proposition for everybody to vote on. So anyway, so we're all aware of it at this point. Oh, go ahead, Patty. Patty? Hello? Patty? Did you want to say something?
All right, I just didn't take my hand down.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. So any thoughts about that motion or basically, yeah, it's basically I think what I'll do is look into it more and then, draft something on that, but it might be too late. I think it's more like, maybe I'll send the board information about it so that we can, if we want to, we can reach out to the city council members on our own about that. So, okay. I think that's it. I'm looking, I've lost it. I've lost the agenda. Is that the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
8 would be adjournment.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So, reach out to me if you have any other comments or ideas, and thank you guys so much for coming. And yeah, we'll do this. We'll get this going on Monday. Thanks,
And
everybody.
Karen, thank you for staying on the board.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Patty. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.